Brian just threw away the rule book, just took you out of where you were and took you to another place.
There was no greater world created in rock and roll than the Beach Boys. The level of musicianship, I don't think anybody's touched it yet.
To dream up these textures that never existed before. That's why people say Brian's a genius.
Welcome to Rock Docs, a podcast about music documentaries brought to you by Treble Media. I'm David Lizerbram. I'm here with my co-host,
Andrew Keatts.
And we are joined for the second time by our returning champion, Dan Koch. What did I just get that wrong? See, I knew I was going to get it wrong.
You psyched yourself out.
I knew your name.
Yeah.
And I literally psyched myself out. This is professional broadcasting. That's Dan Koch. Dan Koch will be on next week.
Slightly higher. You had to sweeten the deal quite a bit more to get him. Yeah.
You'd be surprised. He's available right now, I'm sure.
Dan Koch is avail. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Dan Koch, say hi.
What's up? Honestly, you know what this tells me is like my professional sort of show business ambition should now be to become sufficiently connected to Dane Cook.
Yeah.
That to like see if he would want to do like a love line where he's what's his name? Adam Carolla and I'm Dr. Drew.
Oh, okay.
And it's Dan Koch and it's Dane Cook and Dr. Dan Koch.
Okay.
That does sell
I'm just
itself.
spitballing here.
At least in 2004. I mean, I feel like you need to do a little bit of Dane Cook career repair.
Need some Dane Cook rehabilitation.
I have no idea. I
feel like he's been in movies not that long ago, which makes me think he's still like charging a lot of money for stuff.
My guess is that not that long ago, if we like did the math, it's like 17 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I could not. If you told me that Dan Koch, who I've not thought of in 20 years, was playing the like local comedy store for 150 people, I would be like, okay. And if you told me he just sold out a 3,000 seat arena or whatever, I would also believe that. I have no way of knowing.
Yeah,
we should do a number crunch on this or something because I really have no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what we're here to talk about today. No, we're here to talk about our second favorite torture genius, Brent Wilson, after Dane Koch.
Well, obviously, goes without saying.
Yeah. We're talking about Long Promised Road, which is a film from 2021 about Brent Wilson, directed by Brent Wilson, no relation. This is a heavy time for fans of Brent Wilson. Perhaps a moment of triumph for fans of Mike Love. I don't know, but
that's a dark way to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
David, right off the bat, comparing Brent Wilson to Dane Coch and then suggesting that he has recently lost a battle with Mike Love, I feel like we may have done irredeemable damage to the Beach Boys fans of this.
The vibes are immaculate.
He didn't lose the battle with dementia. He lost the battle with fucking Mike Love.
It could be. That's
awful. That's awful.
No, his funeral brought Mike Love and Van Dyke Parks together, and that was a beautiful scene. That was nice to see. So, anyway, about Brent Wilson, who recently passed. You may be listening to this in the far distant future, but if you're listening to it relatively soon, he recently passed. And Dan, you are one of the deepest Beach Boys heads, it's fair to say, in the known galaxy. And
there is definitely a level or two above me. There are dudes that I know and that I am aware of who go beyond, but I'm deep, dude. I am I'm in the seventh circle of the Wilson family. I mean, I'm in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you wanted to speak about this movie, which is, a long overdue conversation for us. And sometimes we do like, oh, when was the first time you heard of this band? But that's really dumb in this case. But how about let's just go around the horn with do you have a childhood or early memory of the Beach Boys? Because there's such a type of music that appeals to children of all ages.
I play them for my boys all the time. Yeah. More than any other artist. Yeah.
I would say anybody who's listening to this who is an elder millennial like me, will probably have the same origin story, which is an unfortunate one. I think out of all the generations that have a distinct tie that I think probably
I know where
crosses,
you're going here, Andy.
I think everyone born within 5 years of me would say that the first exposure to the Beach Boys is Full House. And I do apologize for that. I can't help when I was born. That's just,
well,
you know.
I was born in 1983, but I was born in, which makes me an elder millennial.
Yeah.
But I was born
in 83 as well.
In San Jose, California.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born into, it's sort of like being born in Jersey and you grow up a Springsteen fan. Like I was a Beach Boys fan. We lived half an hour from Santa Cruz. We were near the ocean regularly. We were around surfing and bodyboarding and all that stuff, you know, my whole life. The Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, you know, we would go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So the Beach Boys were a hometown band. And so my exposure to the Beach Boys, basically the first music that I have any conscious experience of being like shown intentionally, which I'm sure there was plenty of ambient music, was around age 5 or 6. My mom got me 2 cassette tapes. One was Beach Boys Endless Summer, and one was a compilation called Surfin' Hits, which had like 2 Beach Boys songs, some Jan and Dean. I think Dick Dale, Misery Lou is on there. You know, some of the instrumental kind of Ventures type stuff. And that was like my first popular music, basically. And so my history goes back as far as it goes with any artist, genre, anything.
Yeah. I love that. I grew up in coastal Southern California, so it was also
much
kind of like
closer. Even more hometown.
Band.
Yeah.
But my parents are you know, they're of the generation that they like this was the Beach Boys were happening, their original hits when they were like you know, really teenagers, like 15, 16.
My dad was like 13 to 16 in those peak like surf and car years.
Yeah. So this was like right up their alley. And I always remember, my mom says to this day, like she grew up in Brooklyn and listening to the Beach Boys, like she's been living in Southern California for almost 50 years now, but she still kind of marvels at it because she says like, I remember listening to the Beach Boys and like the idea of ever going to California was as likely as going to the moon. Like it just was not like she never even heard of anybody who'd ever even thought of going to California, you know? And this was the image that she had in her head. And it is really true. Like one of the really things that I remember about this movie is Bruce Springsteen is often a terrible talking head in music documentaries.
I'll trust you guys on that. Yeah.
Great musician. But it's rough. It's rough. But
his performance in Robbie Robertson, it's a rough one.
But in this case, he does have one good quote, which is basically like, I don't remember the exact word, but basically like the kind of world, fictional or whatever you want to call it, world of Southern California that Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys created is like as powerful as any other kind of world that was created by any other musician. And that is absolutely true. Like even having
lived almost George R.R. Martin of 60s pop. He's the best premier world builder.
J.R.R. Wilson over here. I mean, I even when he said that, it almost made me feel like not like you know, like the Truman Show or something, but almost something like where I just suddenly felt like the perception of the place that I have lived almost my entire life and where I grew up. You just revealed something about that I have, like, you know, the scales show up from my eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, the way that I perceive the world in which I have lived my entire life, I grew up, I have a kid, whatever, is reflected by this. Like, it was somewhat created by this mythology that this guy and his brothers and friends created.
No, I mean, dude, think about it's a sliding doors kind of a question, right? So Mozart is born in America, okay?
Yeah, sure.
In whatever year, so Brian Wilson was born in
1941 or something.
Yeah, 41, something like that. Okay, so like I just saw Superman yesterday. So instead of a Kryptonian, you know, landing here, we get Brian Wilson. He happens to be born in America. He happens to grow up in Southern California. and his brother, Dennis, who with his genetics would have been fucking cool. Literally anywhere. He would have been the coolest Iowan. He would have been the coolest Floridian. It doesn't matter where Dennis Wilson was born. He was going to be fucking
yes, cool. Exactly. In the caveman days, he would have been cool as hell.
Yeah. Like he would have had the sickest pelts, dude. He would have been.
You could say he actually did. So,
yeah. Oh, geez. So so like, I think that he gets into surfing because that's where they are born and raised, is in coastal Southern California. And so of all the subcultures in America that could have got Mozart born into him, it was like California pop. And he does eventually, of course, go beyond surfing and cars. Doesn't take more than a couple years for him to really kind of get through that. But he never leaves California. He never leaves the beach, the ocean, the sun, sunsets, warmth, right? Like that whole sort of like the world encapsulated, like for instance, on the cover of the Keeping the Summer Alive 1980 Beach Boys album, like that world, he never leaves that. He does get the surfing and cars go by the wayside, but not the place and the vibe. And it's like, well, surf culture is really lucky that it got Mozart born into it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good way to frame it. Yeah. I mean, he could have been singing songs about cow tipping in Iowa or something, you know what I mean? And probably that would have been dope. And, you know, but in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, like hip hop gets Dr. Dre born into it. I mean, there's there's all the genres have their version of this, but like, I genuinely think, I don't even think that this is controversial. I guess maybe, so depending on what counts as pop composition, like I don't know the world of classical composition in America, you know, over 250 years, but in terms of a popular composer of music, I just think it's inarguable that he's the greatest American composer of all time. And so, you know, the surfing got him, you know?
Yeah, it's like, why did these four dudes come from Liverpool or whatever? You know, it's like, or whatever. I mean, it's just one of these random things. Yeah, it's one of these most random things. And I love it. I actually, have either of you guys been to the site in Hawthorne where the house was?
I have not been to the site in Hawthorne, but I did go to a concert at the Forum last year. And, you know, you're staying over by the airport. And I was in my hotel. And as I was going up to the airport, I was like, pretty corny that they've got all this Beach Boys shit all over the place at this industrial site hotel. And it was only like on the second day when we were leaving when I realized that we were in Hawthorne.
Yeah.
So I was actually
the only thing it's known for.
It's perfectly reasonable for them to cover the entire place in Beach Boys shit.
Yeah.
I did take a detour and drive by and saw the monument maybe like 10 years ago, and it is pretty cool. You know, it was just like when I drove by Big Pink. Yeah. And it was like, okay, that's Big Pink. Like, what are you going to do? It's cool, but it's worth the drive to do it. You know what I mean? It's like probably the only two. I mean, I've been to London, but never went to Abbey Road. Like, it's the only two of those kind of things that I've ever done.
Yeah,
are the home where the Wilsons grew up and Big Pink, and that's a pretty good run. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Hibbing, but you know, if I make it,
it's a regret of mine that, you know, I toured in an emo band called Sherwood in my 20s for 7 years, and we crisscrossed America like literally 15 to 20 times or something. And we didn't prioritize shit like that. We never went to Graceland. We never went to
Graceland is awesome.
Like Pardon, Dollywood. We never went to like any of those. Like, I don't even think we looked at sort of like the Kennedy assassination site in Fort Worth. Like, we didn't. I don't know. Maybe we were fucking 20 somethings.
That's expecting so much out of 20 something dudes to be like, I know we got to get out of here by 4:00 p.m. But like, what if we got up a little bit early and drove across town to the JFK assassination site? Be like
the grassy knoll.
It'd be like, or we could sleep.
Yeah. It's true. You end up having downtime mostly really on days off that you can kind of organize anything substantial, because there's a certain inefficiency to the schedule of touring. But this this documentary is not really about touring because Brian stopped touring to write Pet Sounds.
Really?
Which Bruce Springsteen, who had another great line in the film, he had more than one, said that Pet Sounds was the sound of joy within the pain of living.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Bruce, all right.
That is like one of the best descriptions of an album I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Or read.
Certainly of that album. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into this movie. The movie is sort of has this thing where, okay, so let me just kind of describe this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So what this movie
David,
is...
do your fucking job, dude.
I'm going to do my job finally.
15 minutes in. Let's go.
Let's go.
I was giving you I was throwing a lot of beef jerky out there.
That's okay.
We did see what you guys would grab.
But the movie is a combination, I would say, of a couple of things. It is, on one hand, a straightforward biography of Brian Wilson that's hitting the big highlights, like, okay,
right.
This happened with the Beach Boys and this, and we, if you know the story, you basically know all that, and it's okay. And then it is the talking head parade, which we can talk about. And then the kind of core or the heart of the movie is Brian sort of driving around or being driven around by his friend, Jason Fine, who is a former Rolling Stone writer. And more or less what they do is they just drive around to locations that are relevant to Brian's life, like the houses where he lived and things like that, as well as stopping time after time to the same diner. And, it's a lot of footage of them in the car talking, listening to music, Jason just prompting Brian, I would say, to reminisce or share his thoughts about people, places, things that, that were notable that happened in his life as a public figure, recording artist, etc.
Yeah. And the reason for this, they explain, is that Brian, just sort of based on his battles with mental illness and anxiety, he is not comfortable sitting down in a traditional interview session with a cameraman and somebody with a boom mic over top of him and maybe a lapel mic and all the trappings of a documentary,
which becomes clear once you see him as he is at the time of filming.
Right.
It's like, okay, we understand why you did it this way.
Shoving a camera in this guy's face would be awfully cruel. But so they kit up the car with cameras,
it's like Jerry Seinfeld in Comedians Driving Cars.
It's basically the same setup.
It's not quite that good, but it's pretty good. They got the Porsche. Did you notice it was a Porsche at one point?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jason Fine. I was like, man, Rolling Stone is paying their writers well. This dude has got a nice car.
I thought that too.
Yeah.
It's possible that is Brian Wilson's car. The
prominence they rented it because I was just thinking because it might be one of the smoothest cars on the market, and they're trying to film the whole thing. I would say just get the smoothest car.
Yeah.
I mean, a sick move would have been to rent an old Woody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was not.
It would have been
install some surfboards on top of the top rack. Yeah.
Vibrating in frame all movie.
But no, it would have looked cool.
People are fucking puking in the theater at screenings because it
would have looked sick as hell.
Okay. But they also explained that basically somewhere along the line, while Jason Fine was a writer for Rolling Stone, he had a couple conversations with Brian Wilson, and for not specifically described reasons, he put Brian at ease. Brian found it easy to talk to him and reached out and said that he would like to keep talking to him. And it sort of became part of Jason's beat on the Rolling Stones, was that he'd be the guy that talks to Brian whenever there was some reason to talk to Brian Wilson in the in the 90s, really. 90s and 2000s, I guess. And so that has carried over that, he can talk to this person. And there's also, there's an interview where Brent Wilson describes that he was already trying to make this movie without Jason Fine and didn't really know how he was going to be able to do it until he saw read a Rolling Stone feature and was like, oh, he can actually talk to this guy. And I think it was like a producer or an agent, some sort of middleman was like, I can put you in touch with him. That's the guy you need to be able to break down.
That's so cool. So I don't know any of this backstory, but it's like that's the key to actually get access to Brian in a way that is both like significant and like ethical, like because obviously he's been through a lot and his autonomy needs to be extra respected. He's basically like a protected class of citizen. Like, he's like, we gotta really, make sure
watch
that
out
we
for this
don't
dude.
hurt him, and it does feel like even though Brian obviously experiences some pain, like some mental anguish and other stuff that you can see on his face and in his body language, he does ultimately feel like he's there of his own free will. You know what I mean? And like they're featuring the music that he's working on then. Like he's obviously involved, not to get too ahead. That's probably the weakest part of the film, which you haven't said is like, and then there's a bunch of footage of him doing like bad current day covers of his old songs and others. Yeah. Which is almost like feels like you have to put that in nowadays to get
a lot of docs have that
sign off, and it's like you could just skip the last 20 minutes. Most viewers could,
Yeah. So the interesting thing about the movie is like that is a very innovative approach. Is just to have this other person that nobody knows, not a famous person, a random guy that's a friend, like be there together to have a conversation. I really like that. And I mean, so Jason is the co-star of the movie. I mean, it's a 2-person movie, and he's in as much as Brian, and he just comes off like a really kind person. I mean, straight up, like, you think about this guy was like writing for Rolling Stone in the 90s, like covering, Hole or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that would be his kidding.
That's
a
good point.
He just seems like a total fucking mensch. Right. You know what I mean? Like just say like you do not get a sense for 1 second that he is taking advantage of this dude or he has something to gain. Like, I don't know what the deal is with him being in the movie, whatever, but like you just get, like, I felt as comforted in his presence on the film as you could tell that Brian did.
Yeah.
And so like, thank goodness for that dude.
Well, and there's like 2 or 3 moments where Brian, sort of just like makes it explicit and says, I had been very lonely for the last few years before you and I started having these conversations. Like, I haven't been able to pal around and just listen to music with somebody in a long time.
Right. He's been on tour. He's busy.
Yeah. But he didn't have just like normal friend.
Yeah. It's not just his busy schedule, it's like, I mean, the thing about Jason that I thought, so I've seen this twice. I rewatched it today and I had seen it much closer to when it came out. And what changed in my life between then and now is now I'm a therapist and then I wasn't. And he reminds me a lot of a therapist, like a good therapist who, I mean, in this case, honestly, like a therapist working with somebody with a brain injury or working with children. I mean, honestly, it's closer to that in terms of the actual skill that you use with somebody whose moments are as precarious as Brian Wilson's moments appear to have been, even quite late into his life, but even like before he was very old, just really had a tough hand dealt him. And that's kind of the vibes I was getting, just speaking as a therapist. Like, and honestly, it was like, okay, it's like sometimes when therapists, we talk about cases, in various contexts, like in training contexts and in case consultations, whatever. Anyway, sometimes like if you're hearing someone share a case, or if you're watching like a movie or something with that, you as a therapist, you start to go, oh, I wish she would have asked that question. Like you start to go, oh, I wish she would have gone there next. And he was so good. He was so close to a therapist that I found myself thinking, oh, I would have probed a little deeper there. like with a client, like I was, but that's how good he was that I was even in that mode enough to think that way. Like he's got that real, like he would be a naturally good therapist if he learned the other skills, he's got that temperament and approach.
If he wasn't the editor of Rolling Stone,
Is that what he is now?
Yeah, he's the editor.
Oh my gosh!
Or, no, I think he is editor. Like editor. He is the editor, or whatever the title is.
Rolling Stone. Wow.
So, shout out to him. We have nothing but love for Jason Fine.
Congratulations!
Yeah. I mean, the way his questioning style is, as I think you said, Dave. They're basically prompts. He says things like, tell me about the time you decided to get married. What do you remember about this house that you lived in?
Right.
They're very open-ended questions.
Yeah.
And he's giving Brian room to run. Now, Brian is a man of few words. There are very few answers that he provides that are, more than 2 sentences. Usually one sentence, and most of those sentences are about 5 words. And so his expression, his pained expression when he's recalling these things, or how when they're being laid up for him, does a lot of the work, because he's not going to be a very articulate person. I mean, it's not that he's inarticulate. He's not a verbose person, I guess I should say.
I think the movie compensates for that by just lingering on his face.
Exactly.
A lot.
Right.
And that's effective.
And sometimes you're maybe reading things that aren't quite there.
Well, you never know.
But you never know. But you can certainly imagine, in many instances, you can imagine, if you want, you can fill in the pieces about what sort of emotional reaction he's having to whatever memory he's
and then there are some very clear ones, like when he learns that collaborator had died, and he just, you get the feeling like that was the end of it for that day.
Yes,
right. That was a wrap on that day, and he was like asking for information, and like you could tell he was kind of perseverating on that, and I was just thinking that I think the unique contribution of this movie is like to the sort of even documentary genre, if I could be slightly overblown about it, is a portrait of a genius with deep mental and life struggles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a really interesting document viewed through that lens alone, even if you don't give a shit about the Beach Boys.
Right.
We've seen a few of these. The one that comes to mind is Daniel Johnson.
Yeah.
Which is also about a person with, it's not a secret that he had serious mental illness issues, and also was obviously he was much less well known.
Yeah.
And not successful on the same level. But also, a lot of people think a musical genius and just like this kind of sweet person. I mean, his troubles manifested differently. But both movies have this come up to the line of like a little bit of, should I be seeing this?
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe more so in the Daniel Johnson one. That's not a criticism of the movie. That's just the tone of that's just what it is, because it could be about, it wouldn't have to be about a musician. It could be a documentary about any kind of troubled person that gives you that kind of feeling of like, okay, I'm seeing something that maybe I, have to sit with. And this movie, I think, is much gentler about it than that, because of Jason, probably. But you still get that kind of vibe of like, I don't know, not like there's a lack of consent. What am I trying to say here, Dan? You're the professional.
Well, yeah. Well, the concern would be that they're incapable of consenting, right? So, forensic psychologists, for instance, one of the main things that they do is they determine fitness to stand trial, right?
Mm-hmm,
so,
sure.
I have some former colleagues who do that kind of work, and that's a really interesting, that's a very interesting world, and I would imagine that Brian is surrounded by sufficient kind of legal counsel, and like he's not. There's no evidence that he's been sort of taken advantage of these last 20 years or so of his kind of revitalized kind of third act career.
Right.
He's very clearly like wanted to make records and tour a bunch and stuff.
Yeah.
So
and in the movie, you don't get the sense that he's not clear on what's happening or what he's doing. Like, he totally knows what he's not clueless.
But he's experiencing the pain of living, in the boss's words.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that section you mentioned though about when he learns, I guess the guy's name is Jack Riley. It was the manager briefly, and had a pretty big impact. Seems like on like the second stage of the Beach Boys, basically, sort of bringing him back.
Like some of the 70s stuff, like
70s
Holland.
stuff.
Yeah. So that's a guy who was pretty involved then in their career as a band.
Right.
So Brian would have had a lot of interaction with him.
Yeah, and so he learns of that, and that is he really seems like to me maybe the standout moment in the movie. I mean, he cries. He asks to turn off the music. He doesn't want to hear it anymore. And then he wants to put it back on. Puts on a song that reminds him of Jack. And then Jason asks him what he wants to listen to next, and he says nothing. And he kind of just after a little bit of silence, he says like, that broke my heart. That broke my heart hearing about Jack. It's really, I mean, it's sweet because I mean, that is the thing. It's like as much as he comes across as a troubled guy who's had to battle different issues his whole life, he just comes across as such a sweet guy, and everybody who knows him describes him in exactly those terms. And you actually do really see it in all of these interactions. He's just an empathic, sweet person, and yeah, I mean, it is very intimate to see a conversation with somebody who feels that much.
I want to talk about something else that this movie made me think about, which is in terms of the music. So the movie has a lot of footage of Brian performing, contemporary, like whatever, late 2010s or whatever this was filmed with his backup band, the Wondermints, and Al, and also the stuff in the studio, which has its whatever value or charms, but there's different elements of the music from the 60s and 70s, let's say, with the 70s stuff that Brian was involved in, where he is he was always considered this like boy wonder producer. And he certainly was, composer, arranger, etc. But there's a certain thing of like, I never know what his taste is. Meaning, he happened to come along at a time when the recording studio and the people who played and the equipment and everything else combined to make, what sounds awesome. Like, no matter what people do in the studio nowadays, there's always this baseline of like, okay, this is what awesome music sounds like from just the texture of it. And then you can go in a different direction. You could deliberately do something different, but you're always in conversation with that sound of the 60s and 70s. And, the stuff that he does later on, including up to and during this movie and live, some of that taste is not there. And you just don't know, or I guess I just don't know. Like, did Brian have that in the time, or was it just a coincidence that he happened to be doing his thing and was a brilliant composer and conductor and arranger at a time when the default of a high quality studio was just this unbelievably great sound, this sound that we consider to be as good as anything could possibly sound in terms of music? Does that question even make sense?
It makes sense.
It makes sense. I mean, it would be hard for me to answer. I think the vision of him that comes across in this movie to me is a guy who is just channeling music at all times. Like the way he listens to music when he asks for a song to be played, the way you watch him like physically hear it, like he's hearing every element in the song while he's requesting these songs. It seems hard to imagine me thinking of him having taste in the way that we use it to mean like a sensibility or like a choice selection based on what he'd heard before, as opposed to like pattern matching what seemed to make sense in his brain,
Yeah.
And I think that's probably as true in his later years playing live as in the studio in 67.
Yeah.
David, are you mostly talking about the difference in like arrangement or the difference in like
timbre,
sound quality, like the what the recordings sound like?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about arrangement. I'm talking about sound quality, the timbre.
Yeah, okay. So here I
think I can texture
shed,
of the sound.
Yeah, I think I can shed some light on this. I don't know that I have like the answer, but I do think that the number one variable of what a recording of a song will sound like in the most basic contours, like how bright will it be? How punchy will it be? How wide of a EQ spectrum will be represented? Like the number one variable there is like what year was it recorded, right? So 80s stuff sounds like 80s stuff. Even the mastering of it, even if it doesn't have the big gated reverb snares, like it lacks the low end of 90s and later stuff. Like there's just those technologies were always pushed to their actual limits by the best artists working in that medium. So like the early hip hop DJs and mixing engineers who are doing those records, like they are already pushing that forward like immediately, and like sort of blasting out and then the, anyway. So like, I think that most of what you're describing is about the time. And so, yeah, there's this perfection that like Brian Wilson was the right age to be working at those studios, you know, Sunset Sound and stuff like that. It's like, we're all just better for it, because that is like the golden age of a certain kind of fidelity. And then later, but he doesn't really, don't quote me on this, but I don't think he is really at the controls helm anymore after like 77's Love You.
Right.
So everything else is other people are at the boards and ultimately kind of making a decision on what's this production going to sound like? How slick is it going to be? Yada, yada. And probably Brian's best years and what he would remember as his most effective years as a producer was when he was just making really clear sounding recordings within the limitations of the time.
Right.
And so Pet Sounds sounds way better and clearer than most other albums from 66. So he was, at that time, that was just all upside. But then you get to a point around 1980 where it stops being all upside to just have a cleaner, clearer recording.
I hear what you're saying. I think what I'm saying is there are people today who recognize those differences, and the style that they're going for is to try to get as close to that 1975 or whatever sound that they hear in their, like Jason Isbell seems like a guy to me who, like it or whatever, like when he goes into the studio, he and his team are doing everything they can, not to like make it sound retro, but to have that warmth and that, quality of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Whatever,
that's right.
A record from that
Casey Musgraves is doing that too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sure. Casey there's plenty of people. Or like maybe a Jack White type of person in a different way is trying to like do a kind of throwback sound type thing. And to some extent Bob Dylan, but a little bit. But you don't get the sense that when Brian is in the studio in 2019 or whatever this is filmed, that he's hearing it and saying, wait, why isn't it sounding like 1968? What can we do differently? Like it doesn't seem to.
No, I don't
notice. He doesn't seem to notice.
No, I don't think he's that dialed in.
Right.
I don't think he only can hear out of one ear.
Right. So but that was true then.
It was true then, but he was at the height of his powers, including sort of like his neurological power, like before being degraded by a lot of drug use. And, so like, yes. And I also don't know what kind of help he had. I don't know enough about sort of like, were there also like mixing engineers kind of helping with some of that stuff? But yeah, you don't get the sense that you get the sense that he's writing the chord progressions most when he's involved. It usually sounds like he basically wrote all the instrumentation and wrote the song. And then how it's, finessed and who adds what percussion and all the bells and whistles that tell you you're in like high quality air quotes production territory. I don't think he's like calling all those shots is my guess.
Yeah. All right.
It's an interesting line of questioning.
That was a tangent.
Kudos. I just have a quick joke question.
Please.
Who do you think Linda Perry had to kill to earn her teardrop tattoo? Right on her cheek.
Yes, I don't know. I did want to talk about the.
It wasn't filled in though. It wasn't filled in, so maybe that's like she gets away with it for maybe it doesn't mean you murdered somebody. If it's not
Okay, well,
if it's just an outline, that's just a whimsical murder tattoo.
Maybe she murdered Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Dolores O'Riordan.
Yeah. Oh God. Let's. I do want to talk about the talking heads in this movie because boy, it is quite a choice.
They all make a certain amount of sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But
you can talk yourself into it.
Each individual, the collective whole is like pretty interesting. It's like not exactly the group I would have assembled,
So you got
like Don Was is like an interesting one.
He's the producer guy. He makes sense.
I'm so glad he's in there.
Yeah. Him listening to the old recordings in front of a board and just being stupefied and amazed is that it's good documentary film.
Yeah. One thing we love in a rock doc is a guy sitting at the mixing desk doing the sliders. Love it.
Come on,
please do the sliders. Bring it up, bring it down.
Looking up from the sliders, smiling. It's great.
Yeah, that's classic rock doc goodies. You have Nick Jonas. I think it's Nick. Yeah, it's Nick.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is like, okay, I get it's a group of brothers that made music.
And
that's as far as it goes. That's as far as that.
It's like acknowledging that in some ways these guys were one of the first boy bands when they first started, right?
I think it's two other things. I think at the time that they made this, Jonas Brothers are among the most famous musicians in the world. So
they're still popular.
But this is closer to when they were like the stadium band,
Sure.
And then secondly, I think that Nick Jonas, is it Nick? It's Nick, right?
Yeah.
He really does sort of want to be like a Harry Styles, like a real serious guy.
Right. He wants to be the kind of contemporary pop star that appeals to old guys like us. Right. And is respected by old guys like us and sees himself in the conversation of a Brian Wilson.
But that's just not, he's not.
It doesn't come across at all.
No.
I mean, his comments aren't.
His sincerity is there.
His sincerity is there. His comments aren't uninteresting.
No.
But they don't compare to Don Was at the
you could have cut
board,
Nick Jonas
right?
out of the movie and it would not have suffered.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
I
couldn't remember
Jim
what
James in there.
Jim James.
Yeah.
Jim James is an interesting one because again, it's like
goddams and goddamn Brian.
Yeah. He brings some vibe.
He's at the fucking rest area, concrete, picnic bench.
Right, wearing his wide lapel blazer.
Yeah,
and just like bringing all the sauce.
This is true story. I met him one time at the Burbank airport, and I was like, I just want to say, like, I've been a My Morning Jacket fan for a long time, but I really loved you in the Brian Wilson documentary.
Really?
I think he liked it. Certainly his compatriots had a laugh at my expense, but I like to think he appreciated that.
That's good.
That was that was a
specific. It's a specific compliment.
All right. Then you get the source of wisdom and truth, Elton John. I mean, that guy has become, like, probably to the world's surprise, like just a sage elder that like speaks the truth and sees everything. Like he is some kind of like, I don't get it.
That's surprising to you?
It's surprising if you had looked in like 1975.
Well, sure.
Like, what he became.
Well,
every time he pops up, it's like, oh yeah, this guy knows everything and is totally like a straight shooter. I don't know. Somehow I'm always surprised by that.
I haven't seen him in as much stuff as you guys clearly have, but now I'll be looking for that.
Yeah,
he does like a little like musicology bit here, where he's like explaining the way Brian Wilson builds chords.
The fifth
on the bass. I like when we get true masters being able to talk shop about what they admired about one of their peers.
Like I'm half kidding, but I'm half serious. Like, I thought, oh, should I try and write a book? What should I do? And I'm like, I'm going to double down on podcasting. Like I love it. I think I'm getting better at it. I want to try different types of interviewing. Right. So I think like there's just like creative people, like Elton and I, this is going to get clipped and I'm just going to get some shit.
This is great.
But like, I'm not comparing myself to the Sir Elton John. But like, the idea that like you can realize that you're good at like different forms of creativity, expression, or whatever. What I was going to say is funny about that is that he didn't write the lyrics to his songs. He didn't write the words. He was the songsmith. Like he was like the, just really much like Brian, right? So mostly not a lyricist. Brian actually probably ended up writing quite a bit more lyrics than Elton John did. But still, right, not his primary thing. Yeah. So that's funny, but yeah, like maybe he's just recognized like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. And the thing about like, if I think about it, oh my gosh, he did explain using the fifth note. Like they used him and Dawn back to back to explain like the way that Brian structures chords, which now anytime you see him play piano in any footage, you're going to notice this. His hands aren't moving that far left to right, right? He's doing all these sort of internal shapes, you can call them. And I actually thought like he explained that pretty well. Like, that was pretty fucking good. Like I was proud of that one. Like that stuff's hard to explain in non-musical terms, So I was like, way to go, Elton.
It was definitely an unlock. Now, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but the roughest, in a way, talking head is Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah, that was
talking about how Dennis was such a popular guy and a really great drummer and a talented person whose habits just brought him down to what a tragedy it is.
The
and like,
living embodiment.
Yeah, and it's watching it now,
Dennis Wilson.
You would not have seen that at the time, when this movie came out in 2021, and now watching it 5 years later, it's like, God, dude, watch your don't you see?
You listen,
disaster. Yeah. And so the movie just has that texture that came along just because of stuff that happens in life, but that's tough. That's a tough hang.
Yeah, that's tough.
And
Linda Perry,
also a tough hang for different reasons.
I don't know what happened with Linda Perry. Do all your listeners know what you guys are referencing?
So Linda Perry, she has this moment as like a one-hit wonder. She wrote What's Up with Four Non-Blondes. And then she goes on and she writes 1 million and produces 1 million of the biggest pop songs of the last 25 years. She's like
Katy Perry, stuff like
Katy Perry, Christina Aguilera.
Okay. Right. So
stuff like that.
I'm aware of her now. The name is matched. Okay, but then it sounds like she got canceled or something.
No. Whenever whenever I see her pop up in a rock doc, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why are we pretending to care?
I mean, she's an immensely successful producer, songwriter. No question.
Yeah, fuck you. You sexist. David,
I don't really.
That's my problem.
But like
a woman, it's called the Beach Boys. Okay,
but
it's not Adam and Steve.
But the thing that doesn't make a huge amount of sense is just like she's not famous. She's not like Brian Wilson in any particular way. Like it's not like Brian Wilson was like, like he left the Beach Boys, but a lot of those early Prince songs were actually written by, it's like not, right. Like that. There's not really a clean analogy.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I like certainly, if you were making a list of like the 50 most powerful people in music over the last 25 years, like I would make perfect sense to have her on it.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure why she's in this movie though.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible there's like some layup comparison that I'm just unaware of with her career. She's done enough stuff that
nor any like notable collaborations with him or anything either.
No.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge. No.
Yeah.
And finally I want to bring up this is great. Gustavo Dudamel.
He is awesome.
Absolutely. He shows up and I'm like, what the hell is Dudamel doing here? Like classical composer, but then it totally makes sense. Like a classical
I think it's
doctor.
Important. I think it's important to get
it's like it totally makes sense. Like here's a guy who's looking at music from an outside of pop perspective,
also outside of America, and from another
outside of America,
linguistic and musical
exactly,
culture. Yeah,
totally different context.
I think it's huge.
Probably the only person who can listen to pet sounds and actually understand, who could sit down and transcribe it, you know what I mean, and write what's happening and understand on every level what's happening.
Of people,
a small group of people.
I am not in that class of people. Nope.
No, nor I. But I could barely get through those chords if I, you have
I
me
mean,
study all day.
I was a professional songwriter and composer for almost 20 years, and I don't understand most of what Brian does.
Yeah.
But the more complex stuff. Yeah.
But Dudamel is just great. I mean, just shout out to him. I'm here to call for Gustavo Dudamel to show up in more Rock Dogs. That's all I got to say.
Pay for the translation services, guys. Pony up.
Yeah.
Get him in there.
Yeah, exactly. We're pro Dudamel here. So, yeah, kind of it's just a weird hodgepodge. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, if you got, Bruce Springsteen and Elton John and whatever other people of that, and Paul McCartney, if those are the three talking heads, you'd be like, all right,
that would make
these guys all posing in a photo together.
Paint by numbers.
But it's a real kind of weird, like, who did they ask who didn't want to do it? You get Stephen Page, who wrote the Brian Wilson song. Okay, I get it. You get hit for 2 seconds. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird, it's off-putting in a weird way.
Well, I got something different for you.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. By all means.
I had a weird moment rewatching it today. So I was watching the Paradise Cove segment, and I was like, there's something about the name and the look. And I was like, is that what I'm thinking? And I looked it up, and sure enough, Paradise Cove, where they shot the cover of Surf and Safari, the classic photo of them with the surfboards and the Woody wagon.
Pendleton shirts. Yeah.
Pendleton shirts, right. Okay. That is the site of the explosion of the Jesus movement in Southern California in 1969 to 72. That was the epicenter. That's where, like, they had these days of 5,000 baptisms a day, and like the Time magazine cover story is about the Jesus movement of the early 70s. And like, my parents met through essentially all the subculture that came out of the California 70s Jesus movement. And then they give me the Beach Boys with the Surf and Safari cover on it. And it's like, was my whole fucking cultural heritage conceived in one cove in Orange County?
Paradise Cove in Orange County.
Like, so much of what has shaped my life culturally is down to that single fucking beach.
Now, is there some connection here with the Beach Boys doing their thing at Paradise Cove?
No.
This is a coincidence that these...
It just happens...
I don't know anything about this Jesus movement. You're going to have to...
Oh, the Jesus movement is like...
I have no... Like, I'm...
Okay, that's fine.
I'm a Jew. Sorry.
No. You know what?
Some of us still around. You may have heard about it.
I think a lot of these people were, too.
Okay. So,
well, not that kind of Jew. I'm not that kind of Jew.
Just to be clear. Okay, so I'll be clear. Clear.
Yeah, give me the thumbnail.
I'm not... So the Jesus movement was a massive Christian subculture movement, sort of like in the later hippie years, like middle end Vietnam era. And it was like the modern day white evangelicals of America are the demographic Pew Research descendants of the Jesus movement of the early 70s. That is the same. They're literally the same people. So everything that you have ever heard of like sort of Protestant Christian media and like the Christian music industry, the Christian film industry, that entire world, Christian bookstores dotting every interstate, that all comes out of the Jesus movement of the 1970s. They had a cover of Time magazine with like a psychedelic picture of Jesus, like portrait, like a painting, sort of like that Bob Dylan poster, with like circles coming out of his head.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a Jesus, like a Haight Ashbury style thing. It's like, it's massive. They have like a Explo 72 is like a Christian Woodstock in Dallas that has like something like 200,000 people show up to it. Like, it was this huge thing.
Okay.
And so that I don't identify as an evangelical. That's not like my tribe, to be clear to listeners. But I was raised in that world, and like 40 million Americans or something. I mean, it's like a huge group subculture in America. And it's all from the fucking same beach, dude. That's just wild to me.
So why I'm asking you is because you recently did an episode on your podcast talking about Brian Wilson as I don't want to put words in your mouth, but him as a religious person.
A Christian. He was, by any basic sense of the term,
right. Okay.
A Christian.
But you identified Christian religious stuff, for lack of a better term, in his song, other than just saying God only knows. Okay.
Yeah.
But you went deeper into that. And I mean, you go listen to your podcast, but I don't know. I did want to like have you kind of give us a little bit of thumbnail of that, because that was an interesting perspective. That, like, as a secular person or whatever, you just don't necessarily think of, like, maybe you'd be like nominally like, yeah, okay, he's Christian, whatever. Like, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. So I host a podcast called You Have Permission, which is soon to be renamed to Religion on the Mind. So I have a doctorate in psychology. I'm just wrapping up, and I am a psychology of religion researcher. But also I like to goof around with my friends on mic. So anyway,
but you also do music stuff. Yeah. Right.
Well, I don't really do much music. I have a music podcast too. That's also going to get a little rebrand and redirection.
Okay. That's
more substantial. Current one is called Pretty Good Vibrations. That's more on what your listeners would be overlapping with. A robust back catalog of Pretty Good Vibrations, March Madness style tournaments. I'll just say that's my little promo drop.
Yeah, there's some good episodes in there. Check it out, folks.
Including a 2-part 32 Beach Boys album mega tournament, which really ended up being more like a 5-hour ode to the Beach Boys. Anyway, so the Psych and Religion pod did an episode that actually put on both feeds of that and Pretty Good Vibrations, because I had this guy Dave Zoll, who is like a theologian and writer and an even bigger Beach Boys head than me. We had become friends like literally a week or so before Brian passed, over our shared Beach Boys love. And then he passed. And so then we did this remembrance kind of episode, but we did it where in the first hour, basically, we sort of talked about, like, from perspective of like faith, spirituality, Christianity, and Brian's faith and how he described it over the years in interviews and stuff like that. And in some lyrics. And so Dave knows more about that kind of stuff than I do. But basically the short version is he was like certainly like a person of his time and place. You know, he's born into mid-century suburban America. And for him, that ended up being, I think, Lutheranism. So he was confirmed a Lutheran, which would have been a very normal thing to do for a suburban family in that time. And there's not like a lot of evidence that he was like really involved in, like, he was never in a church choir that we know of. It wasn't like some of the gospel artists like Sam Cooke, who like literally come out of like church music. It's not that, but he's this touched, kind of gifted, like, I think non-neurotypical neurodivergent individual, basically. And he really saw it as this kind of elemental, like, this is God, like, this is spirituality. He famously described Smile as his teenage symphony to God. He said things in interviews like, God's language is music. I open up and, now, but the funny thing is, like, when I say it that way, I make it sound like he's like doing a speech for winning a fucking Dove Award or something. Yeah. Like he wasn't like that, obviously. Like he was a hard liver. He, did a lot of drugs and whatever, but he really had a very sort of childlike orientation to what he understood as God. And it was directly implicated in his musical abilities. That is consistently how he described it, the language he used to understand himself and what he did. That doesn't mean he was right about any particular claims, but like, that's certainly like, it's not like sometimes he says that. He kind of always described it that way.
But even, I guess the only other thing I wanted to ask about was that he talks in this movie and often about the, voices in his head and I'm sorry if I'm not even using the right terms, but he's very concerned with Satan. And like, that is a thing like, you might get people who grew up in that time and place and just say like, oh yeah, thank God, or I don't know where the music comes from. Maybe it comes from God, whatever, and use that. But being particularly focused on Satan, I mean, I don't know how much of that is from his religious background versus that would be normal at the time versus his own personal demons, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you my kind of guess as a therapist. My guess is that so one of the things I know people did not expect this to become a psychology of religion.
That was my final question on this topic. Then we can, bullshit about Linda Perry or whatever.
Okay. But like, I think one of the things that religion offers people is language that feels like it meets their most extreme experiences. So, like, most deeply felt experiences, greatest joys, greatest terror, these sort of like these teetering on the edge type of moments that we occasionally have, that movies depict so often, right? Because they are so charged. And religion's like God, devil, love, evil, perfection, heaven, hell. It has like really bold terminology that like any person on their worst day after a concussion can still get their mind around God versus the devil. Like, it is like the most elemental kind of contrast, like of concepts. And so I do think like everybody in a certain sense, Brian had the language that he was given growing up, right? So that was Lutheranism. But in a more elemental sense, he had a very sort of simple version of that Christian faith that just, to go only on his description of it. Who knows what else he privately thought about it. But like, so I do think it's like, even once he knew that they were voices, what would be really interesting to know is like, okay, later on, once he learns, okay, this is called schizoaffective disorder, and these are auditory hallucinations, and some people get them, people who have your same condition get them. After that point, I wonder if he changed how he thought about that, but you do get the sense, and again, he's not my client or anything. I'm guessing here a bunch. You really don't want to be overzealous with this kind of shit when you're trying to stay professional.
I understand.
You do get the sense that like he knows most of the time, like he knows that they're not real. Like it's not
right.
That's not really the devil. Like, but at the same time, if you live with a constant felt experience of hearing a voice say, "I'm going to kill you, I'm going to send you to hell," like, wouldn't you just kind of stick with like some Christian language for that? Like, you're going to beat that language somewhere else? Probably not. Like no one is like, and a guy like him is not going to turn to like highly medicalized psychiatric language instead either.
Therapy speak is not
right.
Be
that's not where Brian Wilson is going to end up, vocabulary wise. Like, that's not how he's going to understand it. And so he sticks with that language, Yeah. Sorry, that was long.
No.
I can bloviate.
No. I like it. Andy, what else do we have to kick around about this movie?
What else do? Oh, well, our friend Dr. Landy.
Oh yeah, your professional model.
Yes,
they call him the new Dr. Landy.
Oh my gosh. There is such thing as bad publicity. That would be bad publicity.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
The sort of, the car conversation that he has with Jason, where, which, I imagine that was in the realm of things that he wanted to bring up. That was probably one of the harder things that Jason had to ask, right? Like, tell me about this horribly controlling relationship you had for nearly a decade. With
but I wonder if we noticed the same thing, Andy.
Yeah.
I want to hear what you're going to say in Brian's response.
Well, I suspect I didn't notice the same thing, but he
was pretty positive.
He starts out, his first thing he says is, well, he used to do this thing to me where he would tell me to eat spaghetti off the floor.
that part he's not positive on. That's true.
And then you think, oh my God, this is horrifying. And then he says, but I lost all this weight, and I think he describes it as complicated or something.
Yeah.
Again, clinical words I don't want to throw around willy-nilly, but like the way that Landy controlled him seems pretty clearly.
Yeah, he was lost like his license. Like, that you can't get
textbook
caught.
Manipulation where you you make somebody do something horrible and then you overcompensate with being super nice to them. You deprive them of this horrible of these things that they want in their lives, but at the same time you can hold up that you've done something really good for them, and you it's this like jump in the hot tub, jump in the cold plunge, jump in the hot tub, jump in the cold plunge thing that like just gets you in their grip, and like it's that was, and it seems to me like he's kind of still in it. Like he's still not willing to just say that dude fucking tortured me.
He was like, he made a lot of money off my name.
Yeah, he didn't like that part. He's like, I didn't like that he started making music.
I also wondered if that was like a line that Brian has about that. Like,
right.
That's not uncommon to have sort of like lines that you repeat. By the way, it's common for autistic individuals to do that. And he seems to have done that, in my recollection. And I wondered, like, I mean, one explanation is that Landy really helped him early on.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't know enough about the story. Like, I haven't read these. Like, I'm a big, again, like, I know the music really well, but I haven't done all the, like, biography reading.
He does seem to credit him. He says he helped me get off cigarettes and alcohol and cocaine.
He never got that big again. He never, I think he largely has stayed sober since then.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just those two things alone to, sort of like pump the brakes on the killing yourself with binge eating and pump the brakes on killing yourself with drugs, is worth a lot. Now, he, very clearly went to lengths where he should have lost his license, and I believe he did. And I think, maybe was criminally prosecuted or civilly prosecuted, and all that would make perfect sense to me. But I could see someone who struggled as much as Brian throughout their life, if somebody was a part of a genuine benefit, a genuinely helpful period, even if it had its drawbacks, like I could see just him having a complex, psychological relationship with that. And we're talking about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would like to see a rock doc about Dr. Eugene Landy and Phil Tao, the sweater wearing psychologist famous from the Metallica documentary.
From some kind of monster.
Yes. Like, let's get this together.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a slightly fictionalized buddy movie.
Yeah.
Where these two guys get together after it's all said and done, and we're like, man, like
apparently apparently the sweater guy is Phil is a member of there is like a set of these therapists who now specialize in working with bands and groups like that.
Yeah, Phil's much less of a villain than Landy.
Yeah.
Phil's kind of a goofy character.
I kind of want that job. I mean, frankly, I think I'd love that job. I think I'd be good at it too.
Can we get you in a rock doc?
Hire me.
We got to get you into a rock doc where you're like the therapist.
Then my career will really take off
for a band or some kind of artist.
I genuinely, no, truly though, I genuinely might see about kind of getting into that world. See if I know anybody in that world, because it is actually extremely rare to have lived the life of a touring musician and then be like a therapist. It's a very small subset. Like Ed from Grizzly Bear is a therapist. That's what
I was going to say.
Yeah. But like that was headlines. Like there's, I had ChatGPT do like a deep search, like one of those deep research ones, and it came up with like 5 or 6 guys. It's like not a lot.
Right.
So it's interesting, and some of them were edge cases. Like, did you just play in a cover band? Kind of a thing.
It was kind of interesting because we recently did a podcast about the Taylor Swift doc, Miss Americana, and like highlighted her therapy speak. And I think we all did kind of like ask, like, okay, who is Who is that has that job of being like Taylor Swift's therapist? Like that seems like a crazy
Have
situation.
You not
Everybody
seen
involved.
that meme going around that is like, just imagine somebody is Taylor Swift's therapist and can't tell anybody.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
got to be.
I haven't seen that meme, but that was what we thought at the end of that movie. Where like the way she talks, it's very clear that she's in therapy. There's no question, you know. Like,
and that's not, we didn't mean it in a bad way, but just like how, that's an interesting job for that's an interesting client for somebody to have.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it'd be interesting.
We've gone
I can neither confirm nor deny that I am Taylor Swift's therapist.
Right. It would be irresponsible.
It would be irresponsible of me to either to really
confirm.
Listen. The reality is that she has a team of therapists. It's you, Dan. It's Eugene, Landy, and Phil Towle. Between the three of them, they found the perfect balance.
And Ed from Trip
and Ed Drosky.
From Grizzly Bear. You make her eat spaghetti off the floor. This is really terrible. Okay, poor Taylor.
We forgot.
She recover from this.
One other thing. That's Vanna White.
Oh yeah, Vanna White. That's great. That's great. He's very tickled to see Vanna White.
Actually, I had one last.
You're a great neighbor.
I had one little coda. Okay, we must have lived near each other. I have one little coda, maybe though.
Yeah.
Please. And this is another little plug for the Your Permission Pretty Good Vibrations episode. It's on both.
Plug your stuff.
Yes. Well, that's it. One of the things that came up was when we were trying to kind of talk about theology a little bit sort of like the intellectual history of religion in context where applicable. I'm always curious about that. And there's this idea from Augustine that through loving a person, you can love God. Like eventually, like that can be a way that eventually that's like pure love of God. And I was thinking, like, I was saying, that's kind of like, I think what Brian's doing with California. Like he loves California so much that I can enter his world and love California, but I'm kind of loving God. Like by loving this man's like touched representation of the natural world, like in other words, God's creation, if you believe in God, that's loving God. Like that is like real, you know, if any of that's real, then that's real. And with the thing I mentioned in our conversation with Dave was that song Southern California from That Lucky Old Sun.
Great
and
song.
I had totally forgotten that it was mentioned in the movie. And they didn't say the same thing about it, but they did talk. They played the lyric that I said, which was like, you know, Southern California, something. Oh, it dreams for you. And when you wake up here, you wake up everywhere. And it's like he's like universalizing the particular, right? Like that's like what he's doing in that lyric. And then it came up in the doc, and I was like, hell yeah. So me and Brent Wilson are on some kind of similar wavelength of like, there's a little bit of a skeleton key in that idea and that song. And I'll just say, like, of all the sort of ideas kicked around since he passed, I think that idea, which was not mine, the Augustine idea of like, you could love God through loving something particular, and then all the things that Brian loved, the particular things that Brian loved. Like that has kind of been like the one idea that stuck with me the most in the last like month.
Okay. I'm sure there's a humanist flavor of that too that I could try to articulate.
Transcendence,
but I'm not, whatever.
Yeah, it's there's a non.
I'm not trying to bite your, you know.
No, there's a non like God language version to talk about that of like go all the way out to sort of like the universe or the all or whatever.
Yeah, or just that like he's a person who's gifted with sight of a kind and a perception, and people who are artists of that category. There's probably many ways to be an artist, but people who are artists of that category, you know, can just see the world and then through their art transmit it and make you see, feel, experience things that you and appreciate things that, you know, were not that you just walked by the day before.
Which is, by the way, like exactly how I describe the founding figures of the world's religions.
Okay. I'll take.
I mean,
L. Ron Hubbard.
Don't you think? No, the major religions, the
I mean,
Buddha.
come on.
The Buddha, Lao Tzu, Jesus. Like, isn't that a pretty
Abraham,
good,
man? Yeah.
I don't personally. Spoiler alert! I don't think Abraham or Moses were real people, but
what? Now you've gone too far.
Sorry, I didn't think that you were keeping kosher over here.
We've got
you kept saying humanist, secular. I was assuming we're reform at best.
There's no law of kashrut that I do not follow. All 613 commandments. I'm on it. I've been saying the Shema as you've been speaking.
Good thing we're recording on a Monday.
Oh, please, no. Andy knows you can't. I do not record on Shabbos.
I do not. I don't. I would never roll on Shabbos.
Don't even think about it.
Anyway,
I'm a typical secular atheist.
But your idea of like a certain kind of site, I actually don't think. I think there is more overlap there than traditionally is probably assumed between like religious figures and great artists. I think there's a lot of shared fabric, basically.
All right, maybe that one will be to be continued. Dan,
that's a very polite way to.
No, I like that. I feel like Oh, not at all. No. That was good. I just like my simple brain can only process.
I'm searching Andy's facial expressions to see if he believes you or not, so that if I should believe you or not.
No, I believe him. I think he's eyeing the clock and bench.
Andy knows. Andy and I hang out all the time, and Andy knows that. Well, I'm a great host, and we have great parties, and I'm very gracious. But then when I decide the party is over, I have no problem telling people to get the hell out of my house. Wow. And you know what? Nobody's offended by it because I'm just being straightforward. More people should just do that. So,
David, there's an alternative, which is you don't have to. I mean, not in this case, you do, but in general, you don't have to end the party. There's actually a place that you can go and tell your secrets to. And in that world, you can lock out all your worries and your fears. You can go to your fucking room, dude, and watch a movie in there and let the people keep partying.
Rock top.
Those were actually the original lyrics. You can go to your fucking room, dude. If you go and, look in the archives.
Yeah. There's a scribbled version.
Columbia made them edit it.
Yeah.
How about just in my room? I think that'll go better on the Ed Sullivan show. Nope. You can go to your fucking room, dude. All right, man. Well, thank you for joining us on this long promised road.
Always a pleasure. Nice little
Anytime. We look forward to your impending doctorate and your future podcasts and other things you're doing.
I'm glad you're looking forward to my doctorate. I'll be sure to text updates. I do want to party in San Diego with you sometime now at one of these famous parties, though. Now you have just earned yourself a dinner guest.
You should definitely come. It'll be great, and then I will tell you to leave. And you know what? You'll be like, "Yeah, it was actually time to go."
Dave, it's 9:15.
That's usually when it happens.
That's usually when it happens.
About when it goes down.
Oh, gosh. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to Rock Talks.
The rooftop is down. The story begins.
I'm picking up. The beauty of it carries with it a sense of joyfulness, even in the pain of living.
There's something going on with Brian Wilson. There's no hiding that this man is troubled, trying to escape something.
And the pressure that comes with that, the pressure to continue to be the person that people think you are supposed to be.
The idea of doing an interview makes Brian nervous. And this is kind of where things got difficult for you, huh?
Yeah.
What was going on?
I don't know. I was having mental problems.
Yeah. So we'll often ask if we can just take a drive and listen to some music.
Well, I get anxious like it's scared a lot.
So this was all where the house was, right here?
Yeah.
We can
get out. I just want to look at it. It should get better, really.
There it is. Look.
There it is. It marks the spot. They said go out and get a steady job.
The fact that he's still here and making music, that's a miracle, kind of, isn't it?
I don't know how you do that.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, work it again. I got this terrible feeling in my chest, I'm nervous.
You got this. That must have been a really exciting time.
It was. was a trip.